the Hubbub. So, the fans of the Zack Snyder DC movieverse of the DCEU, known as the SnyderVerse, died like 3 times already, but somehow a specific fan segment keeps pretending it's restoring. We are going over the top 3 lies that the overzealous Zack Snyder cult-like fans try to use for restoring their Snyder-established slop-verse. You know, the one that disappeared. It's like a bad magic show, distracting with a pretty assistant while the magician uses sleight of hand. Let's get into it. The number 1 lie. Man of Steel made nearly $1 billion if you use inflation, and Gunn Superman lost $42 million. No, that's typical lying through their yellow and sepia-stained teeth. If you use the same exact math on Man of Steel that they used on Superman, you'll see they are false prophets. Let's break down the math, which proves one can't be a flop without the other being one. P, which is production budget, is $225 million multiplied by 2.5 and equals $562.5 million. Superman made $617 million, past the break-even point, before even accounting for other revenue streams, so we can see it profited. Forbes never even said the $42 million loss number themselves. If you did the math the same way on Man of Steel, it lost $40 million. During opening weeks, theaters do not get a 50% split. They make revenue off concession products and services. During the opening weeks, studios can get up to 90% of the split. The whole premise was flawed. I do not believe Man of Steel lost money. It is just a point showing how stupid the argument is. Mr. Phenom, for example, and harsh Temu critics still say it as matter of fact, so don't expect a rebuttal to this because they have no ammunition. Their verse, remember, has no gun. Savvy. Let's go over the Forbes method used exactly with Man of Steel this time. This is the same way it was generically done on Superman. We will divide by 2 for a 50-50 ticket split. $670 million divided by 2 equals $335 million. Don't let your head spin from the numbers, it's right. Budget, remember, it is $375 million. $375 million minus $335 million equals a $40 million loss for Man of Steel. Boom, Snyder cuckbots. Neither were actual losses, but here is your logic basis. But Snyder tards can't defend themselves, so sleight of hand it is. Next, let's move on to lie number 2. They will tell you Ted Sarandos of Netflix said Superman underperformed. In fact, he never said this in a sentence together. They purposely ignored weeks prior. Ted had a list of successful hit movies from the WB where he counted Superman. This is on record, folks. On Ted Sarandos, it's 2 points, and even Tyrone Magnus, who is a Snyderverse supporter, as he's interviewed Zack Snyder himself, he is a huge fan, but he pointed this distinction out.
And will this be a fully exclusive 45-day theatrical window?
Fully exclusive to theaters, yes.
And will this be self-enforced? In other words, if you fall short of that?
That is the industry. It is the industry standard for self-enforcement. However, routinely, movies that underperform, the window moves a little bit. And Superman was a little shorter window, and Sinners was a little longer window, but they still could refer to it as a 45-day window.
And so I guess the trend right now, though.
His first point is that some films may exit theaters significantly earlier than expected, failing to meet the standard release window.
Hear it as him talking about 2 separate things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
His second point is that although Superman and Sinners were financially successful, they were still treated as compliant with the 45-day benchmark, despite not strictly adhering to it. While some films are pulled early for underperforming, other times they may be pulled early for other reasons, yet still aren't breaking any hard rule on days before digital release. Sinners exceeded the window by a few days, while Superman was earlier, much like Minecraft at 39 days and Jurassic Rebirth at 33 days, which is earlier than Superman 2. It was all to say 45 days isn't a fixed set rule. These were separate points that never had him say in same sentence that Superman underperformed. Again, he is on record putting Superman in his pile of successful WB-listed movies. The number 3 lie is the lowest you can imagine. The Snyder Cope try-hard goofs like to pretend that James Gunn is a PDF because he's not the creative in charge of DC they prefer. To slander someone as falsely doing acts on kids who did not and never ever was arrested for such actions is both idiotic and toxic, just as their stupid fanbase is in general. It is so low. Yes, Gunn did tweets, but not actions. The tweets were RT pranks.
Biggest mistake I made was I one day posted, "Hey everybody, it's fake retweet time." This is back in the day when you didn't just press a button and retweet someone. That wasn't possible. You had to copy and paste and then put RT before the tweet.
Yep.
I realized you could do this and fuck over your friends. So I started tweeting the most horrible things I could imagine about my friends who have had to live with this to this day.
Yeah.
In the wild days of the platform, which made anyone doing a manual RT look like the originator of remark. That gets lost on some. So he'd say it, a friend would type RT, then their friends would think they said it. It wasn't limited to taboo kids jokes either. There were never thousands of PDF-specific tweets deleted. It's true he didn't want random stuff from that wild west of Twitter rehashed again, or in some cases manipulated into other meanings, so deleted a specific period. He's not attempting to erase the past, he's moving on from it, just as you Snyder riders should from your dead slop DCU. That's a part of the Snyder grift lie. It was all from his most immature time frame of his life that he's apologized and since grew from. Some remarks were offensive, some were forgettable, some were funny and unrelated to PDF humor, some were not funny. You guys can respectfully ask the regular Snyder Mill channels to do a rebuttal, but we saw Mr. Phenom attempt that before and gave up in 6 minutes on a debate loss. It was embarrassing.
The whole Batman v Superman 70% drop off, I gotta end it there because you have nothing solid and you're not even talking about why. So I could care less about the rest of the video. The first 6 minutes, you literally just told fib after fib. But I'm gonna leave it at that.
He's a nice guy, but needs more knowledge to step up to the debate floor. Harsh critics is poor at preparing, so wouldn't stand a chance or have the needed attention span to cover this properly. 4KO is too sensitive. Aaron Fisher is entertaining, but he just omits whatever doesn't help the Snyder Bro restore effort. Other Snyder Mill channels just cover the same fake cosmic crook news made-up stories, so they can't do a thing to handle the hubbub facts. Don't be a Snyder Cope slut. It's a bad loser look. There are other lies I can smack down, but that's today's top 3. That's what they do to try and bring back their edgelord verse. Meanwhile, James Gunn is over here actually building a new DC universe. Some fans are still trying to resurrect a universe that already had a funeral. Meanwhile, James Gunn just walked in and started building a better DC universe from scratch. This isn't a continuation, this is a replacement. 2026 is the first real test of the DCU, with multiple projects expanding beyond Gunn's direct control. The new DC universe isn't arriving quietly. It's arriving with a hard reset, a new philosophy, and a very online audience still arguing about a universe that already ended. Somewhere right now, a hashtag is being drafted. Meanwhile, James Gunn is busy building something that actually exists. That tension between what fans want revived and what's actually moving forward is the backdrop of this entire reboot. The previous era of DC films hasn't faded so much as lingered, loudly, persistently, occasionally trending like it just dropped last weekend. But Gunn's approach isn't to negotiate with nostalgia, it's to replace it, not tweak it, not course-correct it, replace it. And, to his credit, or depending on your timeline, his audacity, he's not playing it safe. Instead of locking the DCU into one tone, Gunn is leaning into range. A hopeful Superman sits at the center, but orbiting him are wildly different projects. A darker, more emotionally bruised Supergirl, a grounded, slow-burn crime series in Lanterns, a full-on horror film with Clayface. This isn't a shared universe trying to feel cohesive at all costs. It's one trying to feel alive, which brings us to Supergirl and the inevitable box office discourse that will follow it. Because the second that film releases, there's going to be a segment of the internet ready with spreadsheets, comparisons, and declarations of failure if it doesn't hit some arbitrarily massive number. You can already hear it. If it doesn't make hundreds of millions, the DCU is doomed. The same people who treat opening weekends like election results will be refreshing totals like it's a live vote count. But here's the reality. Supergirl doesn't need to do huge numbers to be considered a success, and more importantly, it's not designed to. First, it's not positioned as a top-tier tentpole like a Superman film. It's a character expansion piece, the kind of project meant to deepen the universe rather than carry it financially. Expecting it to perform like the biggest entries in the genre misunderstands its role entirely. Second, tone matters. A darker, more introspective take on the character, closer to a space survival story than a traditional crowd-pleaser, naturally narrows its broad appeal. That's not a flaw, it's a creative choice. Not every film in a shared universe needs to be engineered for maximum reach. That mindset is exactly what leads to everything feeling the same. Third, Gunn's broader strategy seems built around sustainability, not spikes. If Superman establishes the foundation, projects like Supergirl test the flexibility of the universe. Can it support different tones, different scales, different audiences? A solid, well-received performance, critically and commercially, does more for long-term stability than one oversized opening, followed by a steep drop. And finally, there's expectation management. One of the quiet advantages Gunn has right now is that the DCU is still in its early phase. These projects aren't just releases, they're calibration. They're figuring out what works, what connects, and what this universe actually is. Of course, none of that will stop the discourse. It never does. There will still be comparisons to the old era, still debates about what should have happened, still the occasional claim that a timeline can be restored if you believe hard enough. The SnyderVerse may be over, but as an online concept, it's practically immortal. At this point, it's less a franchise and more a recurring event. But the difference now is that the conversation isn't driving the direction anymore, the films are, and that's the real shift. The new DCU isn't asking for permission to exist. It's moving forward, with or without the hashtags. Savvy. With that, it's today's Hubbub. It ain't no lie. No SnyderVerse, no problem. Bye, bye, bye. Keep coping if a Snyder-only loser, with no movies for DC on the way. Meanwhile, Gunn has confirmed movies with release dates for our favorite DC characters. Boom ya bitches.